All right, listeners, welcome to this episode of the Justice Team Podcast. And today we're very honored to have none other than Rob Freund, who we're going to talk today about advertising in e-commerce. We're going to talk about some influencer law. I consider Rob to be a pretty prominent legal influencer in the space. Rob, why don't you just introduce yourself? And I'll give a little of your background, but why don't you just say hello? I want to hear your voice for our listeners.
Hi, I'm Rob Freund. It's nice to be here. Appreciate the invite.
And he also has enormous biceps. If you're watching on YouTube, it's quite impressive. Well, look at that. He's getting. We made him blush. So Rob went to his undergrad at William and Mary in Virginia, and then to UC Davis, and then went to Greenberg Traurig. Am I saying that right?
Greenberg Traurig.
Traurig.
Yep.
See, I don't hire those guys, so I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
They're kind of expensive.
They are a bit pricey.
So when did you start your own firm?
I left GT at the end of 2019 and opened in January of. No, I left at the end of 2018. Opened January 2019.
Probably one of the best decisions you ever made.
I would say so. I mean, it was a long time coming and took a bit of planning and a lot of nervous nights before doing it. But, it's easier now to do that than it's ever been. And once you have a plan in place and you've seen other people do it, it becomes less daunting when you have a roadmap to do it.
I actually have a gift for you. I brought you, if you can see on for watching YouTube. Oh yeah, some Monster Energy Zero Ultra, which Rob once told me that is the nectar of the gods.
Yeah,
so much good.
That's accurate. I mean, I credit all my success to this beverage.
So we're not endorsed by Monster Energy drink. If you do want to endorse the show, it's fine. Give us a call. I would tell you, if you did endorse us, it is the greatest, most healthiest thing ever. Well, it made you lose a lot of weight. Is that ethical? Can I say stuff like that if I'm endorsing it?
Yeah, I mean, right now you're not endorsing it, so you can say pretty much whatever you want.
So what would be the rules, just for our listeners, because we see a lot of, Instagram folks go out there and, endorse products or services. Can I just say that about Monster Energy? What if I'm getting paid and I just start making up a bunch of hee-haw?
If you're not, obviously joking and you actually had a connection with Monster and they reached out and wanted you to make some content, then the risk would be on the brand if you're out there making claims that Monster couldn't support with the type of evidence that you need to support it. So if you go out and say, Monster will grow all your hair back, that's going to be a problem for the brand because they're not going to have, I don't believe, the scientific data you need to support that. So
what about the influencer saying it? What's their blowback?
Well, probably they're violating their contract that Monster would have with them in terms of making claims that are unsubstantiated or false or misleading or something like that. Most influencer agreements from a sophisticated advertiser are going to have representations about what the influencer should or shouldn't say or can and can't say and what the consequences of that are.
So have you seen any type of those, because we see so much on, we see your social media, your LinkedIn. Did they just find you at Rob Freund? Is that your handles and all these things?
Yeah, it's at Robert Freund Laws, and I'm most active on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, that's how most people find me. Like 95% of my inbound leads come through Instagram and now Twitter that I'm paying more attention to it. But I haven't spent any money on marketing.
Isn't that crazy? We talk, a lot of us talk this all the time, is social media is free.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes time. Yeah. It's an investment of your time if you're going to be in control of it. And, a lot of thought goes into creating it and producing the content, but you don't necessarily, depending on your practice area, you don't necessarily need to have ad spend to get your message out there and get eyeballs on what you're doing.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of your stuff go viral, and I'm not talking about the penicillin go viral. I'm talking about your stuff that you do, your social media posts, and a lot of it is just commenting on current news situation or things that's going on with just selfie videos.
Yeah. So I started doing that probably 6 months after starting my firm, and I was chatting with somebody about what I do and how some of the stuff I do focuses on social media marketing. Mm-hmm. And that person asked to see my Instagram page, and at the time it was just a placeholder. And he said, well, look, if you're trying to do work in that space, you need to have a better social media presence than this, which is kind of an obvious thing to say. But sometimes it takes someone else to tell you something obvious for it to click. And he said, look at this CPA. There's this guy, Tyler McBroom, At the time, he had like 100,000 followers. Now he's got close to 1 million. And what he was doing then and still does now is he just takes 1 minute selfie videos going over issues that come up over and over again. Like, can I write off my car? Can I take a deduction from my home office? Like, stuff he probably answers every single day. And this person I was chatting with was like, you should just do that for common legal stuff. And I thought, that's a good idea. So I was trying to do like 3 to 5 videos a week and was pretty consistent about that on Instagram. And a combination of posting consistently and then having those lucky moments where a big account will reshare it can start. It gave me that like critical mass of followers that then encourage people to reshare it more, and it just sort of snowballed from there.
But are you just putting out willy-nilly content, or does it have a purpose for what you do?
Yeah, the thought was initially I was just sort of following that format. Like, what are the issues that I see come up either in legal blogs that I follow, or cases that make the headlines, or a lot of filings that I pay attention to, or previous or current clients have asked me multiple times, and try to digest that in a way that's not legalese, that can actually, if it's not just a matter of awareness, like hopefully one practical takeaway within a minute, which is kind of a challenge, but that was the idea.
Well, that's the attention span for many listeners and viewers.
Yeah, it was also the maximum amount of time you could record on Instagram for a while. So the constraints of the platform forced me to figure out how to say stuff in a minute. And then I started mixing in things that were just like commenting on cases that involve celebrities or public figures or stuff that's more shareable. Because not everybody, very few people are probably intentionally on Instagram to get legal information. But, this celebrity was sued for something relevant to my practice area. That stuff does pretty well too. So now that's what I try to do, a mix of like purely legal information, some entertainment stuff, and then like some just joke
and then,
posts.
we talked, ROI, return on investment. Not a lot of lawyers, I didn't, but a lot don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on marketing or advertising, right? So you're on both ends. So you help companies plan for these type of marketing, advertise. Why don't you tell our listeners about that, and then how you do the other side, where you do more of a, what do you call it, like a bootstrap type marketing for your firm, and how it's successful?
Yeah, so a lot of what I do is I represent direct-to-consumer brands who sell stuff online and marketing agencies. That's probably like 80% of the client base. And a lot of what I do is, if a client is about to run an ad campaign, or if they already have a website or a sales funnel or something like that, and they want to understand what the risks are in terms of how they're presenting whatever that marketing material is, I'll do that assessment, identify what the issues are, identify if competitors in their space or similar entities have gotten in trouble for something similar, and then based on what I understand the client's risk profile to be, some proposals to, if something needs to be changed, to bring it in line with what their risk tolerance is.
But who are they afraid that's going to come after them? Is this like the FTC? Is this another like brand?
Yeah, it could be both of those. It could also be state attorneys general, and it can be consumer class actions, especially here in California, around false advertising issues are very popular, and they're not going away anytime soon. And oftentimes that's the most immediate source of exposure for clients like this.
And a lot of that, if we see those class action ones pop up, I see a lot of direct Instagram ads for it too. Have you bought this product? Blah, 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 blah. Most of those I see generate around like false misrepresentations, right? Like the product does, like we talked about Monster growing hair, like Red Bull grows you wings, might have grew me a tail or a bad esophagus, maybe, but certainly no fucking wings. But where's the line? Obviously that's parody, but like, where's the, like when you, if your Monster came to you right now and said, we want to advertise that this is a health drink. Let's say it's straight healthy, it has vitamins in it, and we're going to say it's just the healthiest thing on the planet.
Yeah, healthy is one of those words that's risky to use. It's sort of in the same category as natural, and there's a handful of words that are just targets for consumer class litigation because they're.
What are the 7 deadly words? Or the 7 deadly words? What are the ones that George Carlin used to do? You remember that one? The 7?
Right.
The FTC banned words? I won't say them on air. We could say fuck on here, no problem, but some of those other ones are real bad.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is you have to think very carefully about the claims that you're making, whether expressly or impliedly
Mm.
about any product or service.
So you clerked doing some consumer protection stuff
Hmm.
um, here in California, right?
Yeah, it was in Alameda County up in Oakland.
So, I just want to pivot a little bit and talk about, because we have a lot of attorneys and young lawyers that listen to this podcast and also law students. When you're making claims as a lawyer about results or about accreditation, what are some of the guidelines you can give them? We're talking about these little 1 minute segments that will probably listeners are going to see over and over. Like, this might be a good practical, like, if we have young lawyers on here, lawyers in general, what are some tips for them when they're advertising their services and bolstering their credentials?
Yeah, I can't claim to be an expert on the rules of professional
Mm.
responsibility about advertising in every instance, and fortunately, there's an ethics hotline you can call that's pretty helpful about answering those sorts of things. But I make sure that my content is not directed to anyone specifically. I couch it as legal information and not advice. I just sort of highlight an issue, things to keep in mind, best practices, things of that nature, and I make sure that I never, guarantee any kind of result,
Yeah.
or if you work with me, you won't be sued or make any kind of promise like that. As long as you avoid that, then what you're doing is, my understanding, is not really attorney advertising. I'm not making a solicitation by putting
Yeah.
information out there on
And I think
Instagram.
that's the number one takeaway if people are listening is be informational, educational first,
Yeah.
right? If you get in trouble when people saying like, I'm a specialist in this and I
Right.
get the best results. Ooh, like,
Yeah, specialist is something you can't say unless you meet certain
mm-hmm.
criteria. There are certain fields of law where you can get a specialist certification in and then hold yourself out that way. But I never say anything like that. And a lot of times I'll get people in comments asking very specific questions
Mm-hmm.
that are obviously about their scenario. And
And you say slide into my DMs.
yeah, or I'll just DM them and say, like, you should probably remove that comment. And if you do want to discuss that, like, here's a link to book a
Interesting.
consultation.
Yeah, I saw on your website, if you go to freundlaw.com, is it robfreundlaw.com? Robert
RobertFreundLaw.com. Yeah.
Freund. We're both named Roberts, but I went with Bob or Bobby, not Rob or Robbie.
Yeah.
Oh, my dad
It's
was a
an
big Bob.
important decision for all Roberts to
Yeah,
make.
it's,
But
I think you have to make it. I think it was predetermined for me.
yeah.
Was it predetermined for you?
No, I was Robbie when I was a kid, and then I
Ah.
tried to move to Rob in 8th grade, and it didn't stick, and it
Mm.
took until college for me to make that
It's
happen.
funny, like throughout, like everybody that knows me growing up, I'm Bobby.
Uh-huh.
And like the lawyer, they call me Robert. But
Yep.
all my friends just call me Bob. But it's
Yep.
just weird because if I hear somebody, I hear Bobby, I'm like, oh fuck, who from 1998 is giving me a
Yeah,
call?
I'm the same way with Robbie and Robert and
Oh, see,
Rob. So
interesting. This is this turned into a palindrome. Well, that was just Bob, but this turned into the Robert show. Okay, so going back to this issue, sliding into the DMs and advice. So I noticed on your RobertFreundLaw.com, you have book a consultation. You can go pick right on the calendar when to do it and the consultation. So what is the workflow? Because we have a lot of people probably trying to promote themselves that are watching on social media. We already told them best practice, give education. If somebody clicks a link on their Instagram, like what's your best practical advice for them to be able to get that lead? If somebody gives you that comment on there or they see something educational, they say, I want to talk to you about a case or this issue that I'm having. What's the best way?
the way that I've set it up, my practice is one where I don't really need to field a volume of calls, and I don't get. Let me put it this way. I initially started not charging for consultations, and I just had the link in my bio, and I spent a lot of time wasting time really talking with people who had questions that were completely outside of my wheelhouse,
Mm-hmm.
or it just, obviously they either didn't need a lawyer, things that were not good leads. And I realized that was just taking up so much of my day that it was difficult to get the actual work done. So once I had enough of a client base where it was this practice was self-sustaining, or at least feasible, I started charging for consultations, and that was a real game changer because it weeded out the tire kickers, the people who actually had a question they wanted to explore or willing to have
And you
some
could,
skin in
I
the
mean, you can
game.
kind of tell based off of the question they ask you in the DM and maybe looking at their profile, whether they're the
Yeah.
type of person that, right? I mean,
Yes. So if somebody DMs me with a question that's obviously not something I can help with, I'll just tell them that. And if it's something where I think I can make a referral, I'll try to do that too.
And are you able to? A lot of these people that are DMing you, these are what I call consumers that are looking for help, not other lawyers. Or are they lawyers as well looking to retain you?
Sometimes it's lawyers who are in a different practice area that will ask, "Hey, do you handle this type of thing? Can I make a referral?" And Instagram has been very useful for that.
That's
actually.
good. That's very good.
Yeah, so that does happen most of the time through social media. The people who have a question and ask it via DM first are individual creators who, maybe a brand is using their image without their permission, or hey, this company stole my TikTok, can you help? I get a lot of that, and oftentimes those are the sorts of questions where I can just point them in the direction of some information, and it's not. I can understand that it's not something I would take on, that they really just have a quick informational question, and I'll respond to that. The brands and agencies I've found typically can find the consultation link in my bio, and they'll fill out the form and book a consultation and mention like, "Hey, love your stuff on social media," something like that. So for my type of practice, it works well enough for me to just have the link there, or if someone asks, "Hey, how can I get in touch with you?" I'll just send them the link.
Yeah, but your back end is all set up though. As soon as they click the link, or you get pinged, or your team gets pinged, that type of deal. Yeah. And it's, you brought up another thing here is, influencers, or law influencers. What are some things, a lot of common questions that you're seeing now that they're reaching out to you about, whether it's somebody ripping off their brand or they're concerned about XYZ? What are the common questions that you're seeing in that arena?
Yeah, easily the most common is, "Hey, this brand is using my content without my permission."
Yeah.
And
I think I hit you about that this weekend because my wife had an issue where somebody was literally taking a selfie video of her that she did for another company under contract, and this other company just said selling their own product. It's crazy.
Yeah,
which I got to hire you.
I had one this morning actually, just before we started this. Someone's girlfriend had made a reaction video to her getting into college, and then she's on TikTok, and some online casino is using her reaction as like trying to say that it looks like she's winning money or something. So I mean, it happens all the time. Some of it is intentional by those businesses, then they just don't care. And sometimes I'll see that a brand will respond, "Well, somewhere on our website we say that if you buy our product, we can use all the content you ever create," which it's just a misunderstanding from their marketing team how the law works on like a fundamental level.
Wait, you can't do that?
Yeah, you believe it or not, you can't just write magic words on your website and have it control people.
But they can think they're under control.
Right.
So, yeah, okay.
That happens all the time, and then I mean that's easily the most common one. Sometimes it'll be, "Hey, I granted this, or I created content for this brand, and now they're using it in a way that goes beyond what we agreed on. So at least there was some kind of arrangement, and then something happened where the usage rights were exceeded, or the scope of them was exceeded, or something like that."
So if you had to split up like the pie on the type of clientele, the practice areas that you do, what would it be?
I mean, I was doing commercial litigation. That's what I did for the first 6.5 years at Greenberg Traurig. When I started my practice, I was probably like 80% litigation still, but I wanted to get away from that towards the sort of compliance work that I do now primarily. So probably 90% of what I'm doing is helping brands and marketing agencies understand where their risks are and adjust their campaigns if necessary to bring them into compliance and in accordance with their risk tolerance.
Wow. And that's pretty cool stuff.
And then I do like the contracts around that too. So if you're an agency that needs to hire a bunch of influencers for your brand, I can put together the agreements on both sides.
Wow. Now we're cooking with grease. I got some stuff to talk to you about.
Yeah.
I actually saw you do a lot of some video game stuff.
Doing what?
Well, not only being a gamer, but you also helped. You also helped a video game company with some of their stuff as well.
Yeah, I did. That was. I've been sort of outside counsel for them for a while when things come up. Like they have a pretty popular action sports video game, And from time to time, they'll enter into licensing agreements with skate
Mm,
brands to use the logos in the game or for DLC packs and things like that. They hosted their own esports event with a
very
contest. So I
cool.
set up the contest rules and the judging and the agreements with all the people who were involved with that. But most significantly for them, uh, they were sued for there was somebody who appeared in one of their games. The only person involved in the game who they did not get a publicity rights release
Mm,
from, and this person was trying to say that the long and the short of it was like in this game there's 5 professional skateboarders you can play as. They're identified by name, they're recognizable, and then there's the character that anybody can just create and modify. Like you can customize their skin color, their face, their hair, everything. And to create that character, they did what's essentially motion capture work with a guy who knows how to skate but is not famous.
mhm.
That guy, years later, after the game found some success, tried to take a run at a publicity rights claim, and we were the client was very insistent on. A lot of times you'll get a client who at the beginning of a litigation will say, "I don't care what the expense is. I don't care if I could settle this for
Scorched
five
earth,
grand.
scorched
Yeah,
earth.
I don't care if it would go away for 10 grand. I'd rather pay 100 grand, to my team than give him $1." Oftentimes clients will change their tune after the first billing cycle and be more open to a settlement. But in this situation, we were able to get it dismissed. It took a while because courts were clogged up during COVID,
Yeah.
but yeah, we got the claim dismissed.
So are these state court claims or federal that you're dealing with?
That was a federal case in the Southern District of California, and it was a Lanham Act false endorsement and false advertising claim, which
Jesus.
is why
See, Rob's a smart guy. Bob's are usually a little dumber. So that's
I'm trying to
above my pay
break
grade.
that stereotype. It's a struggle though for me.
Yeah, above my pay grade here, man. Yeah, so I think did you ever think about just doing, thinking of lawyers as brands and then being their kind of brand ambassador lawyer to help their journey through? Because I think it'd be pretty lucrative because I think a lot of these lawyers end up making a lot of coin.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea. I feel like there's still some imposter syndrome. Like anytime you get like I think I have 20,000 followers on Instagram now. When I started Instagram, that number seemed like unattainable. But then there's like levels to everything, and you sort of always feel like you're behind the next person. So I kind of feel like I need to be more legit before I offer that kind of service to somebody.
Mm.
But I'd be open to exploring that. I just haven't really given that much thought in terms of
Yeah, I
like,
actually find on Instagram the only thing that I care about the metric is like story views because I think that is where I see the most eyeballs. You can see who's watching, and that can kind of tailor based off that audience.
yeah, that's true. That sort of shows you how many people are consistently
Yeah,
looking at your stuff.
and who like I can go and I try to be pretty granular in that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, then it's like because you're always selling some kind of product.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always think like you have to have you're doing a post, don't just do it for some stupid reason. Like if you're creating a funnel to get a specific type of case, make
Right.
sure it's worth it. And you know how to do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you do with those? Because you get so many probably outside your wheelhouse type issues or cases. Are you directing those somewhere else? Are you monetizing those? How are you doing it?
What I'm doing is I try to vet as much as I can whether this is a client that I would want to refer to someone else, or on the other way to look at it, would I be happy to get this referral if I was someone else, or is this going to be a waste of time, or like obvious red flags, or some other disqualifier? If it's a lead that I think it could be a benefit to somebody, I have tried to build out my network so that I have somebody who practices in the areas that come up a lot for referrals that I can send to. Some of those people I have referral agreements with, which is usually a win-win. Some people I just know like this person's the expert and I like them, and this is who I would want to handle my issue for me, and I'm able to direct them to those people. So it's been a process of identifying people in different practice areas where I don't have to waste time, but I can say, okay, you have this issue, this is the person, and I'll make the intro.
Yeah, and I think what some lawyers are always afraid of is, at some point where you're reaching a critical mass or I always think you're general counsel for anybody that calls you or DMs you or whatever. And if you are able to direct them somewhere, advantageous for them that does good work, a specialist, there's no problem asking for a referral fee or a rev
Mm-hmm.
share. In California, it's open to do those type of things. It just has to be in writing under Rule 151. But I think a lot of people are hesitant about doing that. And I'd like to say don't be hesitant because you're doing a service for everyone. You're finding the client the best representation. Helping the lawyer because they're not having to pay to find these type of clients, right? You're being
Yeah.
intermediary for them. So it has value because you've created a book of business.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what it is. So for all your listeners out there, don't be afraid to ask it. Don't be too greedy. Don't be crazy with it.
Right. Yeah, you definitely shouldn't be like worried to ask. I mean, for many attorneys, the most difficult part of the business is marketing and getting those good leads. So if you're helping somebody solve part of that, of course, a referral fee is appropriate. Some firms are set up where I won't ask because I know the answer is going to be no. Like big law firms are not probably going to pay me referral fees. So
That's
I
where you
don't
find
necessarily
somebody
care.
that just left that big law firm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's that's what I try
And
to
I
do.
find that's what tends to be better because those people that leave big law that start their own shop, like Eli, who we were talking, like I actually hit him up. He just left his firm, thank God, but started a smaller firm. So it's like he's helping me with some stuff, and it's like at a price where, with the value, like I'm not paying for big law's overhead, right? You're paying for him.
Yeah.
And I think that has significant value. So I try to steer people towards that direction rather than.
Yeah. Another benefit of building out a referral network of people who are experts that you trust is I've heard from current clients of mine that one of the benefits they see in working with me is that I know specialists that are good when issues come up. They've told me, like, one of the things we like working about you is, let's say I have an employment law question, you know someone who is good, or I have a patent question. I don't have to waste time trying to figure out or worry if this person's good. You know someone and they've been consistently excellent. So
Yeah, I think a lot of lawyers make the mistake of trying to do everything in-house and trying to figure it out themselves, and that hurts everybody. The client has to literally have to pay if you're hourly for you to learn this area.
yeah,
Come on.
and it's very risky, and there's like insurance issues for you if you're outside of the scope of what you do. It's also just very stressful for me personally. Like if I'm going to attempt to dip my toes into an area that I have to learn. I mean, there's enough new stuff you have to learn within your practice area to stay on top of it anyway. So I don't feel the desire to try to juggle another practice area.
Yeah. So, who are your favorite content folks on social, stuff that you like to see and follow that either inspires you or help you think of ways to create?
For entertainment value, Matt Margolis.
Oh yeah.
Easily. He's consistently funny every day.
Yep. Again, just a lot of selfie videos of him at his computer.
Yeah,
Great.
but his approach is interesting too, because I found out about that platform that he promotes or works for, Law Trades, because I followed his stuff that's funny, and then I think it was just in his bio, because I was like, what kind of lawyer is this? And I clicked on his bio and it said something about Law Trades, and I was like, this is actually a great platform and a solution that I was looking for at the time. So I hired somebody through there. So it's a win. Him just being himself and being funny and putting out that sort of content actually did business development for his company. I'm trying to think of other legal influencers that I follow.
Yeah, I think obviously I think Alex Sue is great. Ashley her HR stuff is always on point. I always think it very funny because we do a lot, I've run a bunch of companies and like the HR stuff we have to deal with. I'm like, holy shit, that's funny.
Yeah, they're both consistently great too.
Yeah. So like, first of all, how do people get a hold of you? You mentioned your website, but is it just best to go to your IG and drop into your DMs? Like, what do you prefer?
Yeah, I see pretty much every DM on Instagram. I see DMs on Twitter, or just email. Any of those works. I'm pretty on top of all of it.
Yeah, I'm so bad with Twitter these days. I haven't been on in months.
The benefit for Twitter that I wish I knew earlier is that all the journalists live on Twitter, and the amount of earned media, like not asking for it, not working with a PR firm or anything, that I've gotten in the last 4 months on Twitter is like more press than I got in the last 4 years combined.
Fuck, that's awesome.
It's been really incredible.
Yeah, I saw you had a duel with Mr. Beast.
Yeah, I mean that was so funny, because it was like, I found that if you, like I mentioned in the beginning, if there's a case that involves a celebrity, but there's a lesson there that other brands or potential clients run into, it helps to discuss that as an example, because people want to read about celebrities anyway.
And I also found that if you do it quickly, because people are search terming for that issue, it makes you hire the search term
Right.
for that
The
issue.
event I was talking about was ongoing, so it got picked up. But Mr. Beast, so many people either are rabid fans or they want him to just not exist anymore. So like, if you say anything about him, people are going to interpret it on one of the sides of the aisle. And people thought I was trying to cancel him, and I was like, well, no, he's running a giveaway. And there's some things that you should pay attention to if you're going to do something similar that he's not doing.
Well, we'll educate our listeners on that. Like, what was like generally or specifically, what is the giveaway, and what are the takeaways of what we should be doing if we do those types of things? Because I do it sometimes too. We give away tickets to, like, we do Lottie Gras. We'll give away tickets, Bourbon Proof. We do these things. So, what are some ins and outs?
Sure. What Mr. Beast was doing was he was giving away, I think it was $50,000. It was either 10 or 50 grand on Instagram, and the deal was like he had to share the post to enter, something like that. There are laws in almost every state, if not every state, that govern what you need to disclose. Some states have registration and bonding requirements if you're running a giveaway that's where the prize value is more than $5,000. A lot of states have record keeping requirements. There's requirements that you have a set of official rules that include certain information and so on. And then the platforms themselves in their terms of service have specific requirements about what those rules need to say. You need to say, you know,
I'm not afraid to post anything. I'm afraid.
It's not burdensome. There's just a lot to pay attention to, or some stuff that's worth paying attention to. And there have been cases where brands have found themselves in hot water from regulators or consumer class actions even over something they did wrong in the sweepstakes or giveaway process. And Mr. Beast, like, I think the reason that this happened was most of the time it's big creators partnering with some brand to give away a product. Like, hey, thanks, you know, Monster, we're giving away 20 cases or something like that. And the brand understands, maybe we should have legal look into what we have to do. And they'll work with maybe a service provider that will set up the registration and the terms and all that. This appeared to be Mr. Beast just giving away his own personal money. So I think it was probably just an innocent oversight. Like, he didn't realize there's rules to this stuff. But he didn't include any of it. There were no official rules. There were no terms. He didn't say like how he was gonna choose the winner, when they would be notified, like eligibility or anything. And so I use that as an example of like, because a lot of people will look to big accounts and assume they're doing it right, and then just copy that because, oh, they did it, they must know what they're doing. And so there's risk there. So I was just bringing attention to the fact that, like, hey, you shouldn't just copy what he does. Instead,
there's best practices.
Like David Dobrik almost always does it correctly when he gives away Teslas and stuff. But people thought that was me like trying to stop Mr. Beast from giving away money, which was funny and actually very helpful for me because I think that post got like 500,000 views or something and a bunch of press.
Yeah, I was thinking, if you go on those polarizing folks handles, or I do some of people's Facebook pages for certain groups, and I'll just like put a funny backhanded witty comment, and I get a lot of followers from that kind of stuff by trolling.
Yeah,
the other side.
Trolling can work. It's a little riskier.
Troll.
Yeah.
My wife hates it though because she feels like someone's just gonna ride up on her house and like, riddle it with bullets. I was like, look, if Honda Motor Corporation or Suzuki Motor, like, if we sue these folks, if they haven't done it yet, we're gonna be totally fine. Whatever. Well, all right. Well, we're about wrapping up here for this half hour. Rob, we want to appreciate you for coming on. Go to justicesteamnetwork.com. Click that tab if you want to have any other questions or practice areas you want to talk about. If you want to go hold of Rob, you can either go to his handle or go to his website, which we mentioned, at robfreundlaw.com, or his handle at robfreundlaw.
Robert Freund Law.
Robert Freund Law. Yeah. Robert Freund. God damn it. See, we went full circle with the Robert situation. So thanks for listening, everybody, to this edition of the Justice Team Podcast. And Rob, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Crush the Monster Energy drink.